Ever dreamt of unearthing a hidden world filled with magic and ancient mysteries? Immerse yourself in Journey to the Crystal Caves, a sleep story that promises just that. As you traverse this mesmerizing tale, you'll follow in the footsteps of our young explorer Eli, venturing beneath the quiet mountain town of Alvoria into a world of glowing crystal caverns and strange creatures, uncovering the wonders that lie just beneath the surface. Nestled amidst the towering peaks and sprawling forests, the quaint mountain town of Alvoria was a place where time seemed to stand still. The buildings, made of wood and stone, bore the mark of generations past, and the streets were lined with blooming wildflowers in the warmer months. The people of Alvoria were simple folk, living off the land and the resources of the mountains. In this serene setting lived a spirited young adventurer named Eli, with his tousled brown hair, twinkling green eyes, and an ever-present smudge of dirt on his cheek. He was a familiar sight around the town. He was known for his unquenchable curiosity and an insatiable appetite for adventure. He was always the first to scale the highest trees, the last to come inside when the twilight painted the skies, and the one to ask questions that made the wise old folks scratch their heads. His fascination with ancient civilizations and hidden treasures was well known. He would often be found in the local library, hunched over dusty tomes and maps, or engaging the elderly inhabitants of Alvoria in long conversations about legends, folklore, and history. He dreamed of grand adventures and long-lost treasures, his imagination fueled by the stories that had been passed down through the generations. One bright spring day, while wandering on the local mountainside, Eli noticed something unusual: a crevice hidden behind a thicket of brambles. The crevice was not large, but it was enough for Eli, who was always up for an adventure. With heart pounding with excitement, he squeezed through the narrow entrance. The air inside was cool and damp, a stark contrast to the warm sunshine outside. The cave walls were rough and cool to the touch, with strange shadowy shapes etched by time. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he realized he was standing at the mouth of a network of tunnels, disappearing into the darkness. As he ventured deeper into the cave, the faint glow of bioluminescent fungi guided him. The tunnels twisted and turned, leading him further into the mountain. And then he saw it, a cavern so vast that his torchlight could barely reach the other side. But it wasn't the size of the cavern that left him breathless. It was the crystals. They were everywhere, embedded in the walls, hanging from the ceiling, growing like strange, glittering stalagmites from the ground, filling the cavern with a mesmerizing, otherworldly glow. Eli stood in awe, taking in the sight of this underground wonder. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of his adventure in the crystal caves. As Eli began to explore deeper into the cave, he found himself in a labyrinth of tunnels that branched out in all directions. The walls of the tunnels were studded with crystals, their surfaces rough and cool to the touch. As he ventured deeper, he noticed the crystals growing in size and changing in color, ranging from the palest blues to the deepest purples, casting an ethereal glow in the darkness. The tunnels opened into cavernous halls, each one more breathtaking than the last. In one cavern, the ceiling was aglow with clusters of amber crystals that resembled a star-studded sky. In another, pillars of emerald crystals rose from the floor, mimicking a forest of luminescent trees. There were caves where the air was filled with the soft hum of energy emanating from the ruby-red crystals, and tunnels where the light from his torch reflected off the sapphire-blue crystals, creating a dazzling light show. It was a mesmerizing spectacle, an otherworldly panorama of luminous beauty that seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. The deeper Eli went, the more magical the caves felt. He could feel a strange energy in the air, an energy that made the hairs on his arms stand on end and his heart beat with exhilaration. Eli realized that he had stumbled upon a world unlike any he had ever known or dreamed of, a world hidden right beneath his very feet. He decided to name this magnificent place the Crystal Caves, a name that seemed fitting for this enchanted world of radiant splendor. As Eli journeyed further into the heart of the Crystal Caves, he discovered that the caves were not as uninhabited as he'd initially thought. His first encounter was with tiny creatures he fondly named crystal critters. They were small, no bigger than his thumb, and composed entirely of translucent crystal. They glowed with a soft luminescence that varied in color, mirroring the hues of the crystals surrounding them. Their forms were reminiscent of creatures he knew from the surface world: beetles, spiders, even tiny birds and mammals, all made of crystal. The crystal critters were curious, friendly creatures. They did not shy away from Eli, but instead seemed drawn to his warmth and the light of his torch. To Eli's surprise, they seemed to understand his movements and intentions. When he was unsure of which path to take at a fork in the tunnel, the crystal critters would scamper ahead, their glow illuminating one path over the other, guiding him safely through the labyrinthine caves. But not all the crystal creatures were as friendly. As he ventured into the deeper, more ancient parts of the caves, he encountered the crystal golems. These beings were imposing figures composed of massive, jagged crystals. They stood as tall as two men, their bodies crudely resembling a human shape. Their facets caught the ambient light, casting eerie, shifting patterns on the cave walls. The crystal golems were guardians of the crystal caves, ancient protectors of this hidden world. They moved with a ponderous grace, the crystals in their bodies grating against each other, filling the caverns with a sound like distant thunder. They were not hostile, but their wariness of Eli was evident. Their glowing eyes followed his every move, and they would often position themselves between Eli and the deeper parts of the caves, silently communicating that some areas were not meant for him to explore. Through his encounters with the crystal critters and the crystal golems, Eli came to understand that the crystal caves were a living, breathing ecosystem, filled with creatures as marvelous and varied as the crystals themselves. He moved through their world with growing respect and admiration, learning to communicate and coexist with these extraordinary beings in their shared journey through the magical crystal caves. In his exploration of the crystal caves, Eli began to stumble upon strange objects scattered throughout the caverns. These were not natural formations like the crystals, but were clearly crafted by intelligent beings. There were stone tablets etched with symbols he couldn't decipher, delicate crystal sculptures that shimmered in the cave's glow, and strange, intricate devices crafted from a blend of crystal and an unknown metal. Confused yet intrigued by these discoveries, Eli sought the guidance of Eldon, a creature he had met deeper within the caves. Eldon was an ancient entity, composed of countless intertwining crystals, with colors that seemed to shift and change with his mood. His form was vaguely humanoid, but far grander, a shimmering spectacle of crystalline brilliance. His eyes held wisdom and knowledge that spanned centuries, and his voice resonated in the caves like a melodic echo. With Eldon's guidance, Eli began to unravel the mysteries of the artifacts. The stone tablets were the written records of a long-lost civilization that once thrived within the caves, the Crystallis, who had a deep understanding of the crystals and their energies. The sculptures were not just works of art, but also served as memory crystals, storing the thoughts and experiences of the Crystallis people. The strange devices were tools, harnessing the energy of the crystals for various purposes, from illumination to communication and even transportation within the caves. Each artifact was a piece of the puzzle, each one telling a different part of the Crystallis civilization's story. They spoke of a society in harmony with the crystals, using their energy for sustenance, growth, and prosperity. They told tales of peace and unity, of a deep respect for the caves and the creatures within. However, they also held warnings, stories of times when the balance was disrupted, when the crystals were misused, leading to disaster. From these, Eli learned the importance of balance and respect for nature's power. The artifacts taught him that while the crystals held immense energy, they were not to be exploited. Instead, they should be used in harmony with the natural rhythm of the caves. With each artifact he discovered and each story he unraveled, Eli felt a deepening connection with the crystal caves and its past inhabitants. The lessons from the Crystallis people shaped his understanding of the caves, guiding his actions as he continued his journey in this magical world. The crystal caves, with all their beauty and mystery, were not without their trials. Each step deeper into the caves brought forth new challenges that tested Eli's courage, resolve, and wits. One of the significant challenges was deciphering the ancient codes of the Crystallis people. The stone tablets were etched with symbols and pictograms that were foreign to Eli. It was like learning a new language from scratch, but without a teacher or a guide. Eli spent countless hours studying the tablets, comparing symbols, looking for patterns. His determination didn't wane, and slowly he began to understand the basic structure of the language. Each breakthrough was a moment of triumph, a testament to his intellectual prowess and tenacity. The labyrinthine network of the caves was another challenge. The tunnels twisted and turned, branched off into multiple paths, and sometimes ended abruptly. With no map or directions, navigating these tunnels was like solving a complex puzzle. There were times when Eli found himself going in circles, other times when he hit dead ends. But he didn't let frustration overcome him. He began to observe the caves closely, noting the subtle differences in crystal formations, using the light and the sounds of the caves to orient himself. His keen sense of observation and his problem-solving skills helped him master the cave's layout over time. Perhaps the most dangerous challenges were the encounters with aggressive crystal creatures. Not all inhabitants of the caves were as peaceful as the crystal critters, or as impartial as the crystal golems. There were crystal serpents, long and sinuous, with razor-sharp shards for scales. There were crystal drakes, resembling dragons of lore, with wings that shimmered in the faint light and breath that could freeze or burn. These creatures saw Eli as an intruder, responding to his presence with hostility. Each encounter was a test of Eli's bravery and quick thinking. He had to learn to read the creatures' behaviors, to anticipate their actions, and to react swiftly. He used the environment to his advantage, using the crystal's reflections to confuse the creatures, or leading them into narrow tunnels where their size became a disadvantage. Each successful evasion bolstered his confidence, proving to him that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Each challenge in the crystal caves, each hurdle Eli overcame, shaped him. They honed his mind, strengthened his spirit, and deepened his understanding of this magical world. With every victory, he became more than just an adventurer. He was becoming a true guardian of the crystal caves, just like the crystal golems who watched him with their luminous eyes. In one of the deepest chambers of the crystal caves, Eli found the most startling artifact yet, a massive crystal monolith, pulsating with an energy that made the air around it thrum. Etched onto its surface was the tale of the crystal titan, a gargantuan entity formed when the energy of the caves became unbalanced. dormant now, the monolith warned that a great disturbance could awaken the Titan, causing a cataclysm that could shatter the crystal caves and cause untold destruction in Alvoria above. The weight of this revelation hung heavily on Eli. He'd come to love the crystal caves with their radiant beauty and unique creatures. He also thought of Alvoria, his home, his friends, and the people who had no idea of the danger lurking beneath their feet. The decision was clear, yet daunting. He would prevent the awakening of the Crystal Titan. Though the task seemed insurmountable, Eli's courage did not falter. He knew the risk, he understood the magnitude of his mission, yet he chose to face it head-on. This was no longer just an adventure, it was a fight for the survival of his world, both above and below the ground. Eldon, the ancient creature, became his guide and mentor. Together they pored over the remaining artifacts, unraveling the ancient knowledge of the Crystallis people. They discovered that the key to prevent the awakening of the Crystal Titan lay in restoring balance to the energies of the crystal caves. This new challenge pushed Eli to his limits, testing not just his bravery and determination, but also his knowledge and everything he'd learned so far. He navigated the deepest, most treacherous parts of the caves, negotiated with the most aggressive crystal creatures, and manipulated the crystal energies like the ancient Crystallis people had done. Every day was a battle against time and uncertainty, but Eli met each challenge head-on. His courage was not the blinding, impulsive bravery of an adventurer seeking thrills, but a steady flame, a deep-rooted resolve that kept him going despite the odds. It was the courage of a young man who had embraced his role as the protector of his world, ready to face any threat, any challenge to keep it safe. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than expected. A series of tremors echoed through the crystal caves, shaking the stalactites and causing the crystals to hum with dissonant energy. The Crystal Titan was stirring. Eli knew it was time to confront the Titan. Guided by Eldon and escorted by the crystal golems, he ventured to the heart of the crystal caves. There, in the largest cavern, lay the Crystal Titan. It was an awe-inspiring and terrifying sight, a colossus made of a chaotic blend of crystals, its form barely contained by the cavern. Its awakening was marked by a cacophony of scraping and grinding as the crystals shifted and a blinding light that filled the cavern. Eli stepped forward, fear gnawing at his heart but determination stealing his resolve. He held in his hands a device, an ancient artifact of the Crystallis people, capable of restoring balance to the crystal energies. But activating the device was not a simple task. It required precise control over the crystal energies, something that Eli had been learning and practicing with Eldon. The Crystal Titan roared to life, its movements causing tremors that rocked the cave. Eli stood his ground, focusing on the device in his hands. He drew upon everything he had learned, manipulating the energy of the surrounding crystals, guiding it into the device. It was an exhausting task, pushing Eli to his mental and physical limits. Around him, his crystal friends sprung into action. The crystal golems stood guard, forming a protective barrier between Eli and the Crystal Titan. The crystal critters gathered around him, their tiny bodies glowing brighter, lending their energy to him. The Crystal Titan lunged, its massive form causing a shower of crystal shards. But Eli didn't waver. He could feel the energy flowing, the device coming to life in his hands. With a final surge of determination, he triggered the device. A wave of pure, balanced energy pulsed from the device, washing over the Crystal Titan. The chaotic light of the Titan dimmed, its roar subsided, and its violent movements stilled. The energy within it calmed, the crystals composing its body settled into a harmonious pattern. Exhausted but triumphant, Eli watched as the Crystal Titan returned to its dormant state. the threat was over. He had saved the Crystal Caves and Alvoria. His journey had been fraught with challenges, but his bravery, determination, and the help of his new crystal friends had seen him through. As he emerged from the caves, the cheers of the crystal critters echoing behind him, and the silent nods of the crystal golems etched in his memory, Eli knew he had grown. He was no longer just an adventurer, he was a protector, a friend to the crystal creatures, and the hero of the Crystal Caves. Upon his return to Alvoria, Eli was greeted with the familiar sights and sounds of his hometown. The quaint mountain town was unaware of the epic saga that had unfolded beneath their feet, but Eli was eager to share his experiences and the wisdom he had gained. He gathered the townspeople and began to recount his journey. He spoke of the hidden entrance in the mountainside, the radiant crystal caves, the unique crystal creatures, and the ancient crystallis civilization. He shared tales of his challenges, the lessons he learned about bravery, determination, and respect for nature. Initially, there were murmurs of disbelief among the townspeople. The tales seemed too extraordinary, too fantastical to be true. But Eli's sincerity and the vivid details of his stories began to sway them. And when he led them to the entrance of the crystal caves, and they caught their first glimpse of the glowing crystals, their skepticism turned to awe. News of the crystal caves spread, attracting people from all around. But Eli, guided by his experiences and the teachings of the crystallis people, knew that the caves needed to be protected. He took on the role of the cave's guardian and guide, teaching the visitors about the cave's history, their unique ecosystem, and the importance of maintaining the balance of energies. He established rules for exploration to ensure the safety of both the visitors and the crystal creatures. He led groups into the caves, showing them the marvels while ensuring they did not disturb the cave's inhabitants or disrupt the energies. Over time, the crystal caves became an integral part of Alvoria's identity. The town flourished with the influx of visitors, and the people of Alvoria took pride in their unique treasure. The caves were no longer just a magical world hidden beneath the earth. They were a symbol of Alvoria, a testament to the wonders of nature and the adventures of a brave young man. As for Eli, he was content. He had embarked on an adventure seeking treasures and ancient civilizations, but he found something far more valuable: a deeper understanding of the world, friendships with extraordinary creatures, and a purpose that went beyond mere exploration. He was the adventurer of Alvoria, the friend of the crystal critters, the student of Eldon, and the guardian of the crystal caves. Eli's journey did not end with the pacification of the Crystal Titan. The crystal caves were vast, their depths filled with untold stories and ancient wisdom that still awaited discovery. Eli was eager to continue his exploration, to delve deeper into the caves, to learn more about the crystallis civilization and their magic. His spirit of adventure remained undimmed, his curiosity insatiable. Every day, Eli would descend into the caves, his heart filled with excitement and anticipation. He studied the artifacts more closely, honed his skills in manipulating the crystal energies, and spent hours conversing with Eldon, absorbing the ancient creature's wisdom. He discovered new caverns, encountered new crystal creatures, and every so often stumbled upon a new artifact that shed more light on the crystallis people. Up above, the people of Alvoria watched Eli's continued adventures with admiration. His tales of exploration sparked a spirit of discovery in the townspeople. Children would play at being explorers, their games filled with sparkling caves and magical creatures. Eli's bravery and adventurous spirit became the stuff of local legend, his stories told and retold, inspiring the young and old alike. As the years passed, Eli became more than just a local hero. He was a symbol of bravery, of curiosity, of respect for the natural world, and of the joy of discovery. He was the embodiment of the spirit of Alvoria, a testament to the town's unique connection with the Crystal Caves. The Crystal Caves, in turn, served as a constant reminder of the wonders that lay beneath the surface. They were a symbol of the town's heritage, of the ancient civilization that once thrived beneath them, and of the young adventurer who embraced their magic. They were a beacon for explorers and scholars, attracting people from far and wide, contributing to the town's growth and prosperity. Through Eli's continued adventures, the Crystal Caves remained a vibrant, vital part of Alvoria's identity. They were a bridge between the past and the present, between the world above and the world below, and between a young man's dreams and his extraordinary reality.